And good morning, everyone. We have a great show. We have a lot of people that are ready to ask questions and also on social media. If there's anything that I say that crosses over the line to give you more medical advice, just ignore that. I'm just going to give you information to do your own research. Nothing I say is meant to diagnose or replace your medical care. Check with your doctor before taking any of this advice because it's just for your own entertainment. So welcome. And Steve, I suggest we just jump right in.
Well, we should. Well, I tell you, we've got an honored guest, Dunya from Sweden, and she is going to unmute herself now. And she's a police officer keeping the peace in that beautiful area of the world, and she is indeed beautiful herself. Here's Dunya.
Thank you for those kind words. Hello, Dr. Berg.
Hello, hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am truly grateful.
Great.
So it seems like I'm suffering from hypoglycemia.
Mm-hmm.
And this Saturday, it was actually very bad. I almost lost consciousness and I couldn't speak. I felt, all the symptoms, dizzy, weak, couldn't stand up, every symptom there is for hypoglycemia. That's at least what I think it is. It has been a problem for a year and a half. Every time I'm trying to start keto, this happens to me.
Okay.
Yes.
So a very good, important question is we have two things. We have going on low carb, and then we have fasting. Are you just trying keto now without fasting, or are you trying to both at the same time?
No, I've been doing intermittent fasting for about 2 years. But keto back and forth a little bit of more carbs at some point, and then back keto, hardcore keto.
Okay. And then, so you have to have carbs or else your blood sugars drop, or you feel like you're passing out.
Yeah, well, my main problem is working out. So this happened after working out. It never happens otherwise nearly, and almost every time is after I am working out very hard, and then all of a sudden my blood sugars are very low.
Okay. And do you have any other symptoms other than maybe, do you have like lightheadedness, like you're going to faint, or do you feel like irritable, or what are the exact symptoms?
The exact symptoms, lightheadedness. I feel this nervous feeling in my body, like something is wrong. I get dizzy. I feel unstable. I feel like it turns. I can't stand up, and I get really scared of fainting.
Okay. And then if you have more carbs, can you, do those symptoms not occur?
Well, yes. Most of the times, but on the other hand, I'm not losing weight.
Okay. And if you don't work out, can you do you do okay with just fasting and low carb, like if you don't work out?
Yes, most of the times. It's since Saturday, since this situation on Saturday, I've had problems in the morning. Around 8 a.m., my blood sugars feels a bit low, and I take protein, as you're suggesting in your videos, to increase protein. I've been trying my best, but it's very hard for me to consume a lot of meat. So I don't know how to do this.
Okay. So there's a couple tips. It just tells me that your liver is probably needing some help in the creation of stored glycogen, as well as the machine that taps into the fat. So your body is having a difficult time making this adjustment. So that tells me there's probably a lot of insulin resistance going on in the liver. So I think what we need to do is do this more gradually. So let's say, for example, you work out, make sure it's right after you eat. That would be important, so you at least have fuel. And you're doing the right thing by having the protein instead of the carbs, because that would be because so that protein will increase insulin, and so some of that protein will turn into sugar as well. So that would be better than carbs. And then what you have to do is you have to start off, very gradually tapering off this protein to the point where maybe your workouts are a little lighter, and then you're having just a little bit of protein, and you do that for a period of time, and then it's a little less, because it's going to happen. It's just going to take longer. But I think you have to do this so gradually so your body gets used to it. There are some things you can do to speed things up. Milk thistle, I think, would be very, very important to take an hour before you work out to support the liver. And then also to take MCT oil too. That way your body has some instant ketones to use as energy. I think the type of protein you should consume would be more, not lean protein. You don't want to do lean protein. You want to do fattier protein. And that's what I would do to try to counter this.
What was this milk thing?
Milk thistle, it's a natural remedy for the liver. It'll help the liver cells work better. And I think that's where your problem is.
Yeah, because I'm scared now of working out. I'm trying because it's the best thing I know, but it scares me. I literally faint every time. So.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is if you can get an electrolyte powder, preferably mine.
I'm doing electrolytes. I'm doing every type of supplement, B vitamin.
Good.
I'm doing glutamine as well.
Okay, good. Then that's not.
What do you think about protein shakes? Should I do that?
I think right now, I think you should do the protein shake right now, just as a transition, and then gradually kind of wean off as you do this longer and longer and longer. Now, as far as the rest of the day goes, I would add more fat to the meal so you could fast longer. So I think the fasting longer, not related to your workout, is going to strengthen your ability to handle being able to work out when you're fasting. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to a situation when you can actually work out, amazing workout while you're fasting, and your body's converting. It's running off of ketones. You're not there yet, but that's where we want to go to. But we just have to do it so gradually that your body doesn't experience this drop in fuel. And so I think I would stick with it, but you just need to kind of like do it more gradual and to the point where you can achieve.
So no carbs, no carbs.
I wouldn't go that route. I think protein would be the better issue, because then if we do, you could do some berries, but the problem with the carbs is that we're going to have a hard time making this transition.
Yeah, because the funny thing is my doctor says, just as you say in your videos, to just keep glucose tablets with me and sugar with me, and I'm like, this is never going to fix this problem. I need to, and I'm scared of diabetes because it runs in my family. So at this point, I'll do anything.
I think you just got to give it more time. But like I said, it would go backwards to add the sugar in there, and then you never get out of it. So, so that's what I would do. Hang in there; it's going to happen, and so just give it a little more time.
So more protein, more fat, and keep fasting.
Yes, the rest of the day with more fat at the meals, and that's going to help you. And then, of course, watch more of my videos on the insulin resistance. There's a lot of other things you can add in there, but really what you have is you have insulin resistance that's really bad that needs to be corrected. So, and sometimes it takes up to a year or longer, unfortunately.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Welcome. All right.
We're all pulling for you, Dunya, and good luck with all your duties up there in beautiful Sweden. And we've got, as you can see, a great show kicking it off with our guests. We've got a lot of quizzes today. We're going to embark on that. We've got some upcoming videos that the doctor is always working on furiously. And, of course, we've got our weekly shout out to all the wonderful people from around the world. I don't need to mention Sweden because we just heard from Dunya. who is there. But in addition to that, we have people in the UK, Canada, Algeria, Cambodia, Hong Kong, the Philippines, Israel, Pakistan, Sweden, we just said, Germany, Brazil, the Netherlands, Ireland, France, India. Hang on, this is such a long list. I can barely keep up with it. Saudi Arabia, Trinidad, Tobago, Zambia, Egypt, Belgium, Taiwan, Armenia, Kenya, good grief, Malaysia, South Africa, Nigeria, Russia, Mexico, Peru. I don't think we've heard from Russia too often. We're glad our comrades from Russia are in there and getting healthy too. Jamaica, Japan, and all across these United States. So isn't that wonderful, Doc? And why don't we start off with our first quiz question? And Doc, take it away.
All right, true or false? Cancer cells originate from normal cells, okay? Cancer cells actually come from normal cells. Is that a true or is that a false? That's your first question of the day.
Okay, that's great. And speaking of questions, we don't want to neglect our social media friends. So, Mr. Mike from YouTube, what are the best daily foods for the liver? Speaking of the liver.
The liver thrives on bitter vegetables. It loves bitter vegetables. If there's liver damage, it's more difficult to digest fats because you don't have the quantity of bile. So you want to go a little bit lower on the fat, not too low, because you don't want to do lean proteins, but just a little lower on the fat. And the liver does not like sugar, but the best thing is the bitter vegetables. So Steve, out of all the vegetables that are bitter, can you think of any that come up other than Swiss chard, mustard greens, kale is slightly bitter. Arugula is a really good one for the liver. What are some other bitter vegetables that you can think of, Steve?
Did you say collards? Collard greens? I'm from the
Yeah,
South.
collard greens. Yeah, that would be really good. There's the bitter you can go, the better. Bitter the better.
Bitter the better. That's fantastic. Well, listen, speaking of vegetables, Noex, he claims to be, his name is Noex from YouTube. Is eating raw vegetable better than eating steamed vegetables? Do they lose nutrients in the steaming process?
If you have digestive problems, you're going to do better if they're steamed. If you don't have digestive problems, and you can chew these vegetables very thoroughly, it's going to be better to chew them because you have the benefit of a lot of the phytonutrients. Some of them actually are enhanced with heating. Most of them are not. So the raw, the better. And so you get the full capacity of like vitamin C, for example, because heat destroys vitamin C. So, I know, Steve, one thing that you don't like about vegetables is the amount of chewing. Chewing 7 to 10 vegetables is quite time consuming, right? It'd be great if maybe someone can chew them for you. But here's the thing, if all that chewing will build up your masseter muscle in your jaw and you'll have better facial structure. So that's another advantage of chewing the vegetables. So I take my time and I just chew, and I do at least 7 cups every single day. But yeah, did I answer that or did I sidetrack, Steve?
Oh, I think you got that. You certainly did. In fact, speaking of not chewing, in Southern California, I used to eat with a colleague about once a month. I'd come to this hotel across the street, and he was trying to be polite the first couple of lunches, but finally about the third one, he's just sort of getting his napkin in his lap, and I'm finished. And he looked at me and he said, did you taste any of that? And really, I say, no, I just do a brief sort of texture analysis and then swallow it. So you're right. Chewing is just a terrible waste of time. By the way, Dr. Berg, we're sort of losing your picture a little bit. Can we still hear you?
Oh, yeah, totally fine.
That's terrific. So let's go to the answer for the first quiz. And the quiz question was, cancer cells originate from normal cells. Is that true or false? And 90% say that it's true. 10% say it's false. Somebody's wrong.
We think that cancer cells are like viruses that come from the outside and come in or whatever. They actually originate from our normal cells. Cancer cells originate from our normal cells. So people are like, oh, I got to kill cancer off. Well, you could kill off all your normal cells because that's where they come from. But you don't want to do that. So at one time, the cancer cell was a normal cell. I will be doing a video on this to what makes them go from normal to abnormal. It has to do with damage in the mitochondria. And yeah, what's interesting about this cancer cell is it loses its ability to die. It actually becomes immortal, which is really weird. So now they multiply and they eat up all your food. They eat up all your, they compete. They're like fuel hogs, and they will then, they divide more rapidly, and they don't listen to our body. They just do their own thing, and they can spread, they migrate, and then they take over and they eventually, kill you. So I think the secret to cancer is to understand cancer more and more and more, so you can actually know how to prevent it and what to do if you have it.
Well, that's terrific. I tell you what, I'm just putting this little screen up until your picture comes back, but we'll carry on with the show because we can hear you fine. So why don't we go to one of our next guests, and let's go to, how about Sue in Fredericksburg. Sue, let me unmute you just a moment. And Sue, if you'll unmute yourself. Go ahead, you're on with Dr. Berg.
Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing what you do. It's such a blessing. About 30 years ago, I had a Whipple procedure done. At the same time, I lost my gallbladder. And due to a lack of blood supply, I lost my right kidney, which I assume I also lost my adrenal gland. So I've been having, of course, diabetic issues. I have probably a fatty liver. I've got so many things going on that I just really need help, but I'm afraid to start with all my complications. Oh, yeah. And I also meant to say I only have one kidney in early stage 3.
Okay. So
I just need some advice. I don't know where to start.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're on, because I want to just give you the confidence that it's the safest thing you can do right now is to lower your carbs, because you have this one kidney left, and the kidney that you have, the primary things that damage kidneys is higher glucose. So the lower the carb, the safer, the more secure that you're going to feed that kidney. You're going to support it and prevent problems in the future. I'm glad that you're now at stage 5. The other thing you want to do to really support that kidney is to make sure your potassium is higher. Of course, check with your doc, but there's been some real interesting research recently on the kidney, and some people say, oh, it's potassium is bad. No, actually, potassium is very, very protective over the kidney unless you are stage 5. So that will lengthen your life. And also, if you go low carb, that will prevent the loss of potassium, because carbs pull potassium out. Also, the fasting is going to put your body in a condition called autophagy. Autophagy is the recycling of old, damaged, wore out tissue. And so the more fasting you do, you're making your organs younger. And so I think you need to start. It's going to be safe. It's going to turn your life around. You'll start taking the fat off the liver. And you don't have to start, with both keto and intermittent fasting. Pick the one that you can do easiest. Can you do fasting, or can you maybe go low carb? Start with that. Start feeling better. That'll give you more confidence, and then you can keep going, getting better and better over time. But I think it would be the safest and smartest thing to do is to start like today.
Well, I have been over the last 3 weeks lowering my carbs and going off, just changing things slowly so that my body has a chance. Because I find that if I do something too sudden, I'll have a chronic fatigue reaction to it. My adrenals are bad, and very bad. In fact, I've had some real serious adrenal crashes. So my real concern is it safe for me with all my conditions? I don't want to hurt my kidney. I don't want to, that's my biggest concern. It's safe for me.
Well, you're going to help your kidney, and I think you're going to help your adrenal, that last adrenal that you have. You have one adrenal, one kidney. I think that you are going to feel really good, especially if you add some B1 and some electrolytes, because that fatigue in this transition phase probably is not going to be adrenal. It's going to be the lack of these nutrients that your body needs to make the transition into keto more effectively. Another thing that will help you is the MCT oil or the MCT oil powder. You'll feel it's a good thing to transition because it gives you the ketones right away, so your brain feels good and you have energy. So
I can't handle the oil.
okay.
I can't handle the oil.
Okay, then the other thing to do is get this product. It's called, I don't know, you can just do a search on it. It's called TUDCA. Okay, TUDCA, TUDCA. And this is a type of bile salt that will replace what you're missing, and you take 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And what'll happen is you'll have more bile to start to extract more nutrients from the food. You'll feel a lot better. If you have fatty liver, that will start to reverse. And I think that will make you, that's kind of like a really important thing with someone that has gone through what you have gone through. It'll make you feel a lot better and make this thing work faster.
Well, that's great. Well, Sue, we wish you well, and thank you so much for being on the show with us. And by the way, Sandra from Facebook asked, what are the best foods to eat for kidneys? So I think you just answered it. So Sandra, you did cover food, right? Not just other things. Is that right, Doc?
Yeah, I think the best food is exactly what I mentioned, is the healthy keto, because we want to go low carb. The thing that supports the kidney more than anything is low carb and healthy, nutrient dense foods. So, people want to know, like, what's better for this organ? Well, it's pretty much the standard answer for most things, except the liver needs a little less fat. But other than that, I think that's what you need to do.
Well, that's fantastic. Then Christine from Facebook, this is awful. I am not able to exercise because of fibromyalgia, and it's bumming her out. What can she do?
Well, I think fibromyalgia is an inflammatory condition that she needs to address with the standard healthy keto and intermittent fasting. So then the inflammation goes down, and then you can actually feel better. Steve, one thing that I'm doing right now with myself, I'm doing an experiment. Here I am putting all these videos out about sleep and how that is important. I said, well, maybe I should get more sleep. So I did an experiment for 7 days, and I got 9 hours of sleep. I'm going to do a video on it. Amazing. I noticed my inflammation, because I have a lot of old injuries, like with my neck, completely cleared up, more endurance, more cognitive function. So I think I'm going to stick with it. I know I've been trying to get more work done by getting up at 4 in the morning, and I've done that for I don't know how many decades. But, I like the feeling of 9 hours of sleep. I really do. So I'm going to stick with that. But, yep, that's right, Steve.
All right. Well, that is tremendous. I may just drop off here during the show for a few minutes, so you can carry on by yourself. No, just kidding. What we will do is introduce the next question.
Okay. So true or false, exercise triggers autophagy. Autophagy is the condition that you recycle your old body tissue into new tissue. It's an anti-aging thing. So does exercise triggers autophagy? Is that true or false? We know fasting triggers it, but what about exercise?
That's very interesting, and I've been up in that a little bit. By the way, Shalini from YouTube, can doing keto cause hair loss? And I just want to point out to the audience that Dr. Berg and Karen have like lion's manes, and they're not kidding. They are strict on keto, and so I think there is some issue other than a healthy keto diet that may cause that. What do you say, Doc? By the way, we lost your picture.
Oh, here it is back. Okay, Steve, I just unplugged my phone. Can you repeat that question?
Absolutely. So Shalini from YouTube says, can doing keto cause hair loss? And I was just mentioning that you and Karen have this thick head of hair, both of you, and you're both strict on keto. So I think there's some other issue that might be cropping up with perhaps not a healthy keto diet.
Well, when you do keto, I always recommend doing fasting with it, and that the problem with that with a lot of people is they don't have the reserve of nutrients, and so if they're not adding more nutrients, especially trace minerals and the B vitamins, they end up with a deficiency, and sometimes that can show up in various things like keto fatigue, hair loss, a keto rash, all sorts of things. So the way that I explain keto and recommend it, it's you can go to my site, even download the eating plan, and that way you won't end up doing it incorrectly, and you can actually get all your nutrients. So especially like zinc and some of the other trace minerals, they're not stored in the body for a very long period of time. And also when you burn more fat, you require more nutrients. If you're not taking those nutrients, you could potentially end up with hair loss. But the majority of people actually get more hair gain. They actually grow their hair better with the keto and intermittent fasting.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, listen, we are taking good care of social media. Why don't we go back to our guests? And Asia from France is with us. Now, Asia, if you'd unmute yourself, and we're going to bring you right up with Dr. Berg. Asia, go ahead. You're Dr. Berg.
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, I want to thank you to accepted me for your show, and I'm so grateful for that. I am in keto about 1 year with my husband and my whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an adrenal body, and with eating disorder, and after I became keto coach with your program, and now it's more for my son, because it's keto with me, and he old 5.5 years, and he had have psoriasis, but big psoriasis in his legs, in his arms, and I tried many things, give him nutritional yeast, vitamin D, creams with zinc, natural things, essential oil, digestion is enzymes, many things, and psoriasis still here.
Yeah. Let me just give you my tip on that, okay? Because it's a difficult situation, especially with a younger child. Usually when you give someone vitamin D, you can actually improve it. Now, Steve, is there a way can you hear me, Steve?
I sure can.
Okay, so many times these, if you take a remedy, especially for vitamin D3, and it doesn't work, there's a reason for that. And there's one reason. I just released a video. It's the 10th reason why people are vitamin D deficient. That has to do with a defect in their genes, the vitamin D receptors, which is actually more common than you think. It's called a polymorphism, which would be a really good test to find out from some way to measure the genes to see if he has this defect. Because if he does, that could be the reason why he's not absorbing vitamin D. Vitamin D is a part of the immune system. It helps to prevent psoriasis, in which case he might need to just take more. You might need to add TUDCA with vitamin D. I'll be releasing a video on that too. Unfortunately, this psoriasis starts in the gut, so we need to support that too. He may benefit from a carnivore diet for a while as well. Now, there is a cream that I just recommended that does work. It's a cream from China, and I took that video down because it worked too well for a lot of people, and I wanted to make sure that it was legitimate. So I am sending that cream to the lab right now, and I'm analyzing to make sure there's no added steroids. And I'll do a video on that very shortly, because if there's steroids in there, that explains why it works too well. If there's no steroids in there, then I'm going to tell you to use this cream, because there's certain herbs that can help act like cortisol without being cortisol. So stay tuned on that information. But thanks for your question, and I'm glad that you're a health coach. Awesome.
That's great, Asia. We were well represented in France with Asia, and now we also have some answers to questions. Exercise triggers autophagy, and our audience, 85% say it can create autophagy, and 15% say no way.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. Yes, you can create autophagy with exercise. And I'm going to give you a little bit more of that in a video. But yes, exercise does trigger autophagy. But really, what turns off autophagy is eating. So if you're going to eat right after you exercise, you might just block that benefit of autophagy. So ideally, if you can get into a position where you can actually fast and work out at the same time and give it a good long fast after your workout, boy, that would be a double improvement. But the research that's out there has to do with fasting and exercise triggering autophagy, because it has to do with tapping into glucose and reducing glucose. So well, I better just withhold the next thing I'm going to say, because that's going to be the next quiz. So.
Oh boy, I can't wait. Well, I tell you what, Lisa from Facebook, and I think this is an important question that's not asked often enough: is keto safe for toddlers?
Absolutely. My granddaughter Lucy was a keto kid, keto baby, and talk about developed like advanced development as far as coordination and cognitive function and everything. I mean, with bone structure, it's just amazing. So we don't do intermittent fasting. She eats more frequently anytime she's hungry, but she definitely doesn't do all those carbs. And I think, kids don't just need that extra sugar carbs that they're getting. It's not a natural thing. Take a look at what breast milk is consisting of. It's high fat. It's not very high carb. So why not give an infant what they really need?
Well, that makes great sense. I tell you what, Virginia is not an infant. She is from Worcester, Massachusetts, and we're going to put her on. Let me unmute her. Unmute yourself, dear, and you're on with Dr. Berg.
Hi, I have a few things. I like to get some videos on bursitis, more like my hip bursitis.
Mm-hmm.
There's a T word. I don't know how to pronounce that long T word, that TROC something word.
No cancer.
But what I do want is videos on things like best sleep positions, best exercises, best foods to eat, best home remedies, best vitamins, minerals, supplements people can go out and buy to take. What is the cause of it? Maybe I'm doing something and that's my cause, so I won't have that cause. The best treatments, exercises, what do you recommend? Are stretches good or bad? If a stretching is bad, then the person won't stretch. If it's good, which ones are good?
Okay, wow. This, I tell you what, Virginia sounds like someone that needs to go to drberg.com. I'll let you answer her questions, but Virginia, let's let him tackle in with a few of those things that you mentioned. But drberg.com and the thousands of videos that Dr. Berg has, I'm sure we'll cover. But what say you, Doc?
Well, so Virginia, that was definitely going beyond that one simple question that I was supposed to answer. But what I'll do, Virginia, is I'll actually create a video on all those things for you. How about that? That's something I will do. But as far as the hip goes, I think there's some really important things to do, especially if you have inflammation. The first thing I would do is make sure you do longer fasts and take vitamin D. That'll take inflammation right out of your body in general. I've noticed that like a lot of inflammation that I had is like gone after I got more sleep as well. So that's another key thing. But as far as the hip goes, if you want to see quite of a miracle, you need a massage tool right before bed. And if the hip pain's on the right side, you press this massage tool into the opposite hip, around the muscles, around that joint. And it's going to hurt like, I won't even say it. It's going to hurt worse on the opposite side. And you work all that out, okay? And you work maybe the top part of your leg, and that will relieve the pain. Of course, you won't want to sleep on the other side. But that would be the quick thing I would do, and it's very, very effective. But you want to work on the opposite side, not the same side. And I'll do a video to answer all these other questions as well. So I think that way I can be more complete. Unfortunately, Virginia, we have so many callers. I'm going to have to go to the next person, but I'm sorry. But thanks for that short, quick question.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Virginia, and good luck with that hip. And speaking of questions, John from YouTube, would you recommend fasting for hypothyroidism?
Absolutely. There's been some data on going on fasting or keto. What's going to happen is going to lower your thyroid. What happens is your body is shifting its food source, and then it's adapting, it's becoming more efficient. And so the amount of thyroid hormones you need is going to be a little less. So you may find your thyroid hormones go down, but what won't go down is your pituitary hormone that controls the thyroid stimulating hormone. That stays consistent. So you're not going to end up with a worsened situation unless you deprive yourself of nutrients. But the key is just having the right nutrients, and then your thyroid becomes more efficient, and you'll notice that a lot of your symptoms actually do better. So if you're feeling better and all your symptoms are doing better and your thyroid hormones go down, you don't have to be concerned simply because your body's just becoming more efficient. Okay?
Sounds fantastic. And I tell you what, we're going to go to the next quiz question. And after that, we're going to hear from Karima on YouTube. She has a question for us. And here we go with the question.
Okay. So which part of exercise is the main trigger for autophagy? There's different component parts of exercise. And some of the people said, well, no, exercise doesn't trigger autophagy, but there's something very specific about exercise that will. What is that key point related to exercise?
All right, audience, get on it. In the meantime, again, Karima from YouTube, what nutritional steps should someone take following radiotherapy and chemotherapy treatments? We wish you well, Karima.
Well, there is some things you can do to help counter the damage from radiation therapy and chemotherapy. And that would be two things. One is fasting, for sure. So the side effects from those two things will be less if you fast, for sure. And also taking certain plants that have phytonutrients. Those will also do that. So that would be consuming a large amount of maybe cruciferous vegetables, for example, and doing fasting. Those two things will minimize the side effects from keto and radiation damage.
Boy, that's great. And I tell you what, the little toddler's counterpart in terms of who can do keto comes from David. He says, my dad's 87 years old. He says he's too old to start keto. Is there any risk to him to start at that age?
Yes, there is a risk. You might actually lose weight, you might be healthier, you might live longer. So that is the other side effect of keto. You might just live longer and have a quality of life that's better than what you have now. So if you want to risk that, jump on and try it out. But of course, sometimes people are, they're content with what they have, and I'll never push them into it if it doesn't make sense to them. If they're 99 years old and they don't want to start keto, okay, that's fine. Obviously, they might have really good genes. They can not have to do keto.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. And really, when people think about it, the answer would be, well, how many cups of sugar should they introduce to overcome the vile effects of keto? I mean, it's really dumb. Our American diet is just, one Coke could just wipe you out if it's not, with just all the sugar that's in there. So it's really just the way I think to state it is, how many cups of sugar do you need to cure ill effects of your diet? And it's just it's just silly.
It really is, Steve. It really is.
All right. Well, our quiz questions aren't silly. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. And how about this?
I think we have to answer the one, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go for that. I tell you what, audience, let's take that down. I'm running off schedule there on there. Instead, let's go to, how about Linda, who is from Oregon, I believe. And hang on, let me bring Linda up. Where did you go? I tell you what, Linda, just go on the air with Dr. Berg.
Good morning, Dr. Berg. Thank you.
Good morning.
So I'm in my 60s now, and I've struggled with weight all my life since I started school. I have done every numerous diet. I've had gastric bypass. I was almost 400 pounds when I had my bypass surgery, and I got down to 217 after. Of course, over the 17 years since my surgery, I gained back up to 283. My problem is that I am a binge eater. I can say no to a lot of things for a long time, but when I give in, I've been doing fasting since the middle of April, and I'm great as long as I don't put that first bite of food in my mouth.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I taste it, I'm over the edge.
I hear you. I know and it's kind of a trap because as soon as someone eats something, now it's like, oh my gosh, that's the whole cascade effect that now you're now you have to deal with all these blood sugar issues and the hunger and the cravings. And so you're right. So I think with you, it's going to be very, very important to absolutely positively set up your environment. So there is nothing junky in your house. So you have to keep it like, even if you think, well, I want to have something, there's nothing there to grab. So it would force you to have to drive somewhere to get it. The other thing too is like the social activities. That's always the hardest because you have people around you and going out to dinner. That's always tough.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you might want to try too is to have some keto friendly treats at a social activity. So at least you can go with kind of a sweet but not sugar type thing. The other thing you can do is buy some Gemnema herb. You can get them in supplements and keep that around. Just buy a little bottle. And if you happen to be in a situation where you're tempted, whatever, here's the rule. You have to chew that first, then eat that sweet. What that does is it completely destroys your pleasure for sweet. And so if you eat it, it's bitter and you can't even get any pleasure. So that will completely destroy your cravings and your eating that. So because you're not going to get pleasure from it. That would be kind of something you can do. But I do understand, we want to get you to the place where your body is in ideal weight. So a temporary cheat day, whatever, it doesn't affect you because you've already at your ideal health and your weight. And so you don't have to worry about it. So I think it's just a matter with you. It's going to change your environment. And there's in the new book that it's free on my site, or you can go to Amazon and pay $1.75 for it. But if you go to my site, download this booklet, I actually have a lot of things in there that address this one point. So get that book, download it today, and then read through it. It's at the last part of the book. So I've just come up with every possible strategy you can add to help you.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Thank
Linda.
you.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Good luck, Linda. And we do have answers to the quiz questions that I largely ignored. Which part of exercise is the main trigger of autophagy? And our audience says 55% it's high intensity part of exercise, 30% say it's the endurance part of exercise, and 15% say cardio. Any winners?
Yes, it's the intensity. The intensity of the exercise determines how much autophagy that you go through, because you want to induce more stress to the body, more depletion of glucose as a sudden acute type thing, and the body goes right into autophagy. So if you did high intensity interval training while you're fasting, oh my gosh, you're going to have a lot more autophagy. Autophagy is going to make you look younger. Autophagy is going to help you prevent diseases. Autophagy is going to help prevent cancer because you're recycling old, damaged things like the mitochondria, and that's how cancer starts. So if you could actually replace your damaged mitochondria, oh my goodness. And plus autophagy also gets rid of pathogens, intracellular pathogens. I mean, like, why wouldn't you want autophagy? So I will release a video more on this this next week, but this is another reason, Steve, why you need to keep doing exercise and keep fasting, which you have in there. I think, Steve, what you need to do now is really bite the bullet and follow Linda's new strategy of keeping those carbs out of the house.
I know I can't attest that I am the gold star, celebrity in that regard, but I am intermittent fasting and I'm working out like crazy. So that's terrific. Okay, so anyway, these questions are so great. I'm learning so much. You ask the question, and then the audience does a tremendous amount of research, and it's just so gratifying. I mean, if you are at the Dr. Berg show every week, you are going to become educated in so many subjects. And speaking of those subjects, let's go to the next question.
Okay. What makes good bacteria turn bad?
That's interesting. Let it rot in the dumpster for a while? All right, I'll let them answer the question.
Yeah, what makes your good bacteria turn against you? That's the question. Okay, Steve?
All right, that's terrific.
So that's an interesting topic. I'm going to be I'll release that video. I already did it, and it's just sitting in the queue.
And most of that happens in your digestive system, right? Isn't that where that sort of all percolates or not
That's
necessarily?
correct, Steve. That's the correct statement.
I am in fact learning. And Susie Q from YouTube wants to learn. She says, I have Hashimoto's. I am dealing with thinning hair, brain fog, and other ailments. What are the best supplements to take to also deal with a high antibody count? Goodness.
Well, there's a couple things. Selenium. Brazil nuts, great source of selenium. Selenium is the one that you need, but also you need to support the immune system. There's a product out there. It's by Standard Process. I don't know if you can still find it, but it's called Thyrotrophin PMG. You take one of those before bed, and what happens is it acts as a decoy in your stomach, and then your antibodies for the thyroid will go after that and leave your own thyroid alone. It's a great way to deplete your natural tissue antibodies so you can then reduce inflammation. The other thing I would do is I would do higher levels of vitamin D3 with about 2.5 liters of fluid a day. But do higher amounts of vitamin D because that's going to drop inflammation. It's going to help. It's kind of like reduce the autoimmune reactions. And if you didn't have inflammation, you wouldn't have the symptoms of Hashimoto's. So that is something that I would recommend. And I've done a lot of videos on Hashimoto's, which is very common nowadays.
That's wonderful. I hope that helps our viewer. And here's a subject I really love. It's about eating. Beverly from YouTube. I just made keto bread. How much should I eat each day?
Yeah, it really depends on what you made it out of and how many carbs it has. You might be okay, but sometimes people, when they start doing these keto breads, it starts to create bloating. So if you have reactions to it, if it stops your weight loss, you probably can't get away with too much. There's a really amazing bread recipe that we have, Karen made. I think it's called the healthiest bread in the world. That thing is dangerously good, and you could, of course, overdo it. But if you compare that to regular bread at the store, it's like way better. But it tastes just like sourdough bread. Put a bunch of butter on it. Man, that thing is good, Steve.
I tell you what, if any of you audience members can get Karen and Dr. Berg to adopt you, you will live a life. I've been over to their house a few times, and the smorgasbord they have, I mean, there is no suffering in keto in their household.
We are looking for some people to adopt. So if you want to put yourself up for adoption, we'll evaluate that, Steve.
And that's right. I was actually outside their door in a basket with a bonnet, and they kicked me right down the steps. But anyway, let's move on with our latest question. The audience is right on it. What makes good bacteria turn bad? And 75% say sugar makes it turn bad, and 25% say refined foods and grains do it. Anybody on target here?
Yeah, and I'll do a video. I'll release the video on this. You're both correct. It's actually the environment. If the environment becomes stressful with certain things that are wrong food, etc., what happens is things start to flip. The sugar stuff will feed yeast. Okay, so it'll enhance the unfriendly version of yeast. There's a lot of microbes out there that are not necessarily friendly, but they're not unfriendly, like even E. coli and certain types of stress, and they live in your body and they don't bother us. And then all of a sudden you take an antibiotic and it just pisses them off And man, they come back with a vengeance and they turn pathogenic and they start creating disease. So it's the environment. So you'd want to create a friendly environment, low stress, low sugar, low chemicals, healthy food, and keep your good bacteria fed with the fibers that it needs, from vegetables and things like that. And yeah, because if it's the wrong pH and the wrong environment, they will flip over and they start to attack us. And so, people sometimes are sensitive about all germs. We must kill all bacteria. No. A lot of these bacteria are helping you. They're defending you against pathogens. And so you want to support those. So then the small amount of bad bacteria can't even affect you. But it really has to do with the environment, the terrain of where they live in your gut. So if you have digestive problems, then we know there's something wrong. So watch my videos on that so you can have a digestive system that supports and keeps the good from turning over to the bad.
Well, that's wonderful. And I think I might have met somebody, Tanya Lynn, who is just as busy as Dr. Berg. She's multitasking. She is at work and running around and doing things. And she's also going to join us right now. So if you would unmute yourself, Tanya Lynn, we'll put you on with Dr. Berg.
There we go. Nope. Okay. Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
My name's actually Tony Lynn,
Oops.
but that's okay. It's a weird name, I guess, in combination. I'm excited to talk to you. I'm a big fan. I've followed you for years. I do a lot of your program with my clients. I think that keto and intermittent fasting is awesome. I've lost tons of weight doing it over the years. I've gone up and down, but me and several of my clients are at menopause, perimenopause, menopause, and just having some issues with insulin response, carb cravings, things like that. And I take a lot of your supplements, but as far as the menopause, and I'm not sure if something in the category of supplements is causing intense cravings. Again, we're all in different stages, but me personally, I'm up almost 10 pounds, lost my last 20 pounds, really focusing on intermittent fasting and cutting my carbs to the 5%. I did your plateau buster. I'm probably saying that wrong, but I'm in fitness. I'm a personal trainer, a private personal trainer and an instructor. So I'm going and going and going. So to gain the weight, I don't know if the menopause is causing it or this is not just helping me, it's helping my clients as well to try and get past that.
Okay.
A long question.
No, it makes total sense. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that. Important topic because a lot of women are going through that. What happens during menopause, unfortunately, is we do have a spike in cortisol. This cortisol basically just turns your proteins into sugar, and so you may find it's harder to maintain your tone, your muscle structure,
Right.
And all of a sudden you get this extra weight gain. You're like, where did this come from? It's that cortisol. So there's a couple things that you can do from where you are at. Of course, adaptogens are all good, and sometimes those work. And sometimes you have to work on more on the liver, though. Like milk thistle is really good because you could actually take this excessive amount of cortisol, and there's something in your liver that helps buffer it and improve the liver to get it to buffer more. But you're going to have to just work harder than someone else that's not in menopause because we got this spike of cortisol. I've had patients come in the past when I was in practice that literally after menopause, their entire muscle structure just fell apart and collapsed to the point where they get bone loss and all this stuff. So it's definitely a trick to counter that. I would personally do what I'm doing right now, which is forcing myself to get 9 hours of sleep, which is really hard because I'm like, the last thing I want to do is sleep. I'm up, 4:30. But so what I did is I go to bed at 9:15 or 9:30. I'm in bed, and I take various things. I take 3 of my sleep aid, and I take 1 cap of my probiotics, and I take a magnesium. I go in bed, and then what happens is I can go to sleep, and I'll wake up at 2 or 3:30, like I'm ready to go. And I just lay there, and I force myself to go back to sleep. And then next thing you know, I slept.
Okay.
But it's probably for an hour because I caught that REM sleep. I force myself to go back to sleep, and I catch another REM sleep, and I go 3 REM sleep. And I'm laying in bed for probably 10 hours or more, but I got that 9 hours. And then now, after doing it for a week, I only got up once. I'm like, my body's starting to be trained. And it'll take your cortisol right down. It'll take yourself right down, but sleep is really something that you're going to have to do to counter that. And of course, the other thing that'll take you out of that flight or fight mode would be and build up your parasympathetic is to do 2 things. One is when you work out, put more emphasis on the recovery part of, like, let's say you were to spike your pulse rate, spend more time to recover from that bout of intensity. So you might not recover, like normally it might be 30 seconds or a minute. Well, go like maybe 4 minutes and then let your body fully recover. Yes, more time on the recovery portion. Work out a little less, which is very important. Like instead of because I know you're probably a trainer, you're working out quite frequent. So give yourself more time to recover, and then try to fast a little longer too. That always will take you out of that sympathetic mode. And that's really what I would recommend. And unfortunately, during menopause,
it's rough, but I got some, good answers. I mean, obviously the recovery time might be a little more beneficial. I do weight training, cardio-based program to build the muscle and instead of high intensity, but I do teach a spin class for one of the prominent clubs here a couple days a week. So, and I'm pretty aggressive with it.
Wow.
So maybe that might have to take a notch down. I don't know. But it makes good sense. Maybe I need to just recover more. As far as supplementation, though, like I've been trying like different, like Hum, Be Chill kind of thing. Thrive just came out with a new supplement to calm the adrenals. I take your adrenal support. I'm just trying to figure out, like with milk thistle, I take 1 pill a day. Is that not enough? Should I be taking more? How much should
you should probably take 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 to really get that liver handled. Lemon balm is another good one. A tea through the day, you can consume that. That really chills out the adrenal. And then even the technique that I teach where you're manually doing massage on the adrenal glands, you should watch that video too, because that will also help. But yeah, I think like I had one person who, she was working out, I'm not kidding, 6 hours a day, every single day. 6 hours. Oh my God. Yeah, and then I think you're just missing the time of recovery. That's all you need to do. And so like the sleep will help, and just try to do it a little less frequent. And then I think that's what you need.
Well, that's great. I tell you, Tony Lynn is a monster, and she's just doing so great. Menopause, my goodness, she can still throw cinder blocks around. But I tell you what, Tony Lynn, we are out of time, and we want Dr. Berg to discuss the great videos that you all can expect in the upcoming week, and he usually extends past the list we put up. Go ahead, Dr. Berg.
All right, tea drinkers should always take this very important vitamin because they're going to be deficient in it, especially if you drink black tea or any type of black tea. Preventing headaches while on an airplane, I'll do that video. Podarco is an herb that has some really cool benefits. It's always in like these antimicrobial, natural antibiotic type supplements. So we're going to talk more about what that really will do, especially for cancer. 7 things to pull yourself out of depression. I'll release that video. The first sign of a vitamin F deficiency. Okay. And Steve, let me just I'm going to pull up my videos that I'm also going to release because I want to show you guys a couple other ones that are in queue. Let me just pull this up right now. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, but the relationship between vitamin D and hair loss. The best diet for autism. Very important. Post-COVID-19 vaccine shingles. That video is going to be released. Hopefully it won't be taken down. The best vitamin to help you if you grind your teeth at night. More data on exercise versus fasting related to autophagy. And the list goes on and on. If you haven't seen my video on the interview with the guy that fasted for 4 days and pulled himself out of a deep depression, watch that. That was amazing success story. This guy was literally trying to end it all, and he ends up living. I mean, it's just, it rebounded. So anyway, on that note, I want to thank everyone for participating and just watching. Stay tuned for more of this content. I will see you guys next week.